This is going to be your guide to using the Life Staff in New World Aeternum. So this guide is going to be kind of weird and different to my other guides because you can't only use the Life Staff. Even if you're a primary healer, you're going to need to pick up something else, and there's a lot of different ways that Life Staff users play, and it also depends on what you're going for. Like, if you're a solo player, there's no benefit to the Life Staff except for getting invited into expeditions. So yeah, like, people are going to need healers. If you actually get Life Staff levels and look like you have a competent build and gear score with Life Staff, you just get invited. But if you're playing with a group and you're pretty much always going to have friends online or guild members from another game, and you're usually the default healer, or they can spoon you if you need help because you're helping them by being a healer, your game changes entirely. And there's a lot of different ways of going about it. Now, I've also made guides to using the Life Staff with other equipment. So those are something to check out after watching this guide. Also, if you enjoy the video or if it helps out in any way, don't forget to leave a like, share with your friends, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe. All of that stuff does crazy things in the YouTube algorithm. Go into the description, find the videos, find the playlist. I'm uploading this one early, kind of as a test. So you can also give feedback about how my New World content is going and how you're feeling about New World Aeternum and all of that other fun stuff. And then you can post your Life Staff builds and what you do down below as well. So focus, you get some good stuff by putting in the attribute points as you get them. Incoming healing, ability cooldown reduction, outgoing healing, 20% outgoing healing effectiveness. So like, you need to hit the 150 at some point and then you become pretty strong. Buff durations, whatever. This is for that group content that you start getting stacking healing efficiency and group kills, and that's pretty nice. And then 20% fortify for 10 seconds when healing allies while your mana is above 50%, but it has a cooldown on each ally. You're still giving them, 1/6 uptime on 20% fortify just for existing. And then we have points in strength. So it kind of goes into the other things. You can be a tank healer. You can go into like Constitution and then go taunt on Flail and Shield, or you can just be a solo carry, and that's what the other guides talk about. Flail gets as much damage going focus with some strength as like max strength and focus because of soft caps into the end game. Now earlier on, you're going to want to put in strength if you're playing Flail, and that's why like Life Staff is not a primary. If you are playing solo and you need to get through content, you're not doing it with like a max damage Life Staff build or anything like that. You're going to need some kind of other weapon. The Flail is good. I also have a Void Gauntlet guide. Void Gauntlet, I messed up. It's just better than the Great Axe, isn't it? And I thought I was going to go all in on like Great Axe, Great Sword. No, you just need Void Blade on the Void Gauntlet, and that scales with focus. You can also do intelligence things where if you hit 200 intelligence, you get 10 mana on crit, and then you put the rest in the focus. So like, you can switch this, 200 intelligence, 328 focus, or however much focus, with Void Gauntlet. You never run out of mana. You have Sustain utility, Void Gauntlet provides healing, and then you're just Life Staffing. Once you get this ring, Constitution does not matter because you're never losing health because you're like infinite sustaining off of your attacks. And even before then, you can still like splash into some stats, get health, get Enchanted Ward on your armor, and then you're fine. And then one of my guides is Fire Staff, Life Staff, because Fire Staff has a lot of damage and autonomy. So again, you hit the 200 points, your Fire Staff never runs out of mana, you put a good amount of focus, you're still doing crazy Fire Staff damage, and then you have the backup on the Life Staff, so you can be useful in group content as a healer, and then also a damage threat. In PvP situations, even though my guides don't really focus on PvP, you're going to quickly find that it's very common for a rapier secondary, because you get on, like, if a healer gets jumped, they evade, and then they parry, or they riposte, and then they just twirl away, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it's about, like, trying to keep as safe and keep as much people off you as possible, usually for PvP. And then the point of DPS and tanks is to taunt and get a lot of threats so nothing gets onto you as the healer. But if they do, then that's why I think, like, having Flail Shield is good, or Void Gauntlet, because it's like, well, they're on me. My team couldn't do anything to keep them off, so I'm just running into the mosh pit, and I'm just going to deal damage, DPS, and heal myself until cooldowns happen, and then I can start using some other stuff. You have to make it fun. You have to find your own fun with the Life Staff, and that's not my job. Even though this is a guide, it's to give you guidance, it's kind of show what you need to go for on your weapons, how you want to spec out. But then there's going to be a dozen different ways you end up utilizing the Life Staff as a solo player, group player, or whatever. This is going to be it. And maybe you are just wild. Maybe you are just going to be doing nature damage on your Life Staff because you found something other people didn't. Have fun in this game. Also, another good thing about the Life Staff is that you put down a lot of fields and AoE healing. So it's like, oh, Sacred Ground. You're in this, and then you're just going to be constantly healed. And in the early days of the game, it was way too strong, and there was also like a glitch where if you crouched, it would reset the Sacred Ground, so you could like infinite crouch for tons of healing, and it was silly. But other than that, you go Sacred Ground. There's a perk Fortifying Sacred Ground, so you gain Fortify in this. You go Beacon, Keen Beacon, and then your Orb of Protection splashes once you get enough points into it, and then you can just use that to top off whenever, wherever in an expedition, or if you're trying to do like an elite raid or solo content or trials or like soul trials or something, you can actually like proficiently heal and keep yourself alive while just going into anything else. And Life Staff does work alright even with low amounts of focus invested. So that's why I have these things highlighted for group content. At some point, you're going to have to put points into Blissful Touch, which at least gives you something to do as a Life Staff user with cooldowns, because you need Refreshing Move. You throw down all of your cooldowns, and then Refreshing Move makes it to where auto attacks are going to give you cooldown reduction. So you hit enemies, you hit allies, and then at some point, you need to put points into Blissful Touch, because this is like the whole thing about healers, and at least it gives you something to do. So fortunately, you can just kind of clear out any low-level camp or something, join a group, get Life Staff experience, get a couple levels, and then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just build it out from there, and then you're good to go. So this is actually like really cool because your auto attacks can heal allies. That's going to be like your main thing outside of your rotation, and then if you have Refreshing Move on your weapon, then that's how you play for the cooldown. So you get like the slightest, actually no, you're not even contributing any amount of damage. So the point of this is that you're swinging for your allies that are playing Schizo DDR, and then you're waiting to like put cool fields on them and then give them effects outside of that. You can also play other things. We have Splash of Light instead of Orb of Protection, where you just heal people for weapon damage, and then you can also gain some mana back, which is nice since you might not have intelligence, and then it removes debuffs when it heals, but that also goes into other perks, so you can have extra healing efficiency that you play around. Allies with a debuff removed with Splash of Light are healed for 90% weapon damage when put on the staff. You don't want to put this on staff, but still like, oh, 54% healing when removing a debuff. That's kind of cool. You also get bonus healing if Orb of Protection heals a low target, and then Keen Beacon, that's also kind of what you want because it gives critical chance to the people affected by it. Then we also have Fortifying Sacred Ground, so 11% on armor is nice Fortify just to have. You can also play around Refreshing Divine Embrace. You can put this on your weapon, but it's also still pretty good on your other gear. And if you're trying to play as a clutch healer, that's another role you could potentially have. Now, Divine Embrace only has a 5-second cooldown, but that means like if you get Refreshing and then you also get a 70% reduction on that because you're playing Divine Embrace perfectly, well then you're playing like Soraka, where you're just tagging everyone and really cool stuff is happening. So you can have a fun minigame healing inside of your group, even just running like all three of these, where it's like, alright, put down Sacred Ground, keep an eye on health, you know, Splash of Light, top people off, and then you can also, if they get debuff, that's might be what you want to hold it on for, they get bonus healing, and then whoever drops below half, boom, you get healed. Oh, it's on like a 1-second cooldown, you get healed, and then you're just playing for like bursty pop-off heals, and it keeps getting better. Target is below 50% health, you heal another, and if the other ally is below 50% health, they heal again. So you can do cool stuff like that. When you heal an ally below 50% health, they're healed for 30% more. So I mean, with Divine Embrace, you're kind of able to keep people alive forever. When you heal an ally below 50%, cooldowns are reduced by 10% once every 5 seconds, but that's still nice. And then you get extra Refreshing Move with the Revitalize. Heavy attacks remove a debuff. That kind of does something on some of the other perks you can get, but then I'm not really too worried about Enchanted Justice because 1 20-second cooldown is ridiculous. And landing heavy attacks also kind of whatever. But Protector also isn't bad if you just want to throw down some healing, but also give your allies crazy benefits, because Keen Beacon means like now they're just doing more damage and you're putting down a lot of buffs. And that's kind of the plan here, where it's like when you heal a target, extend life staff buffs, and then you keep putting down other buffs with these effects. So there's actually a lot of stuff given to life staff users to make their gameplay interesting and dynamic and have a lot of different paths you can take. So it's also not like, oh yeah, this is the only best loadout that you can use. It's going to be group dependent, it's going to be expedition dependent, it's going to be content dependent, which is kind of cool. Leveling it up kind of sucks because if you are solo playing and you heal yourself, and while you're being like healed by life staff and you're killing an enemy with another weapon, you don't gain life staff experience. So you actually have to like auto everything to pull them with the life staff, then go into like an AoE for great axe, great sword, anything, clear out the pack, and that's how you get the shared experience. So you can do something solo. Like I said, you put down fields and life staff and go to fire staff, and even though you don't have like synergy because it's focus intelligence, you can work. Or you just like give your team some mid-tier healing, and then you convert into a DPS, and that works because the content in this game is easy. As for weapon perks, you want Blessed for outgoing healing efficiency, or Savior to give you even more pop-off healing, so healing is increased by 20% when you heal a target below 50% health. So if you're playing for that, like that doesn't have to be a playstyle, and the reason why I don't have that selected mostly is that these have channel times. It takes a second and a half to wind this up. It takes a second and a half to wind this up. Meanwhile, Beacon and Orb of Protection just come out, and then Sacred Ground is ground targeted, so as long as you don't get like staggered while trying to set it up, you can get your abilities down. But this is like you're playing from range, and you're just hoping nothing gets in your way, and your team is taking care of all the enemies around, and then you're just playing like dedicated healing. Rings also have Purifying. When you remove a debuff from an ally, heal for 20% weapon damage. So Splash of Light, debuff removal, and then the other perks, and then Purifying, and then you also go Sacred, and maybe Leeching for like yourself on a different weapon type, or cooldown reduction. That's going to be what you want on a ring. And what about the Life Staff Artifact? Well, this is going to be PvP focused, but it's still pretty good. But good luck, item can randomly appear on PvP rewards track. So you don't see, like, you have a very small chance that you like luck into it every 10 to 20 levels ish, and then it kind of has a chance to appear a bit more. So like if you see it, take it kind of thing, even if you don't plan on healing, because you never know when you're going to see it again. And it has like some other effects. When you heal, gain 1% damage. So I mean, like, is this the DPS angle where like you get nature damage stuff and then that kind of works? Also, people will get things like Arboreal Attunement on their musket and bow. I don't know if the Nature's Vengeance like keeps the stacks when you switch off weapons. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So I don't know that specific interaction. But I mean, like, you just stay on this, and then maybe you throw out a heavy attack, and maybe you actually want to put something on it. So maybe you just stack this and you throw out a heavy attack, and you can actually like finish people off. Or even inside of PvE contents, like now you kind of DPS in between doing your other stuff. So that heavy attack removing debuffs is actually viable. Also has the Keen Beacon, so at least like forces you into the beacon, gives you Refreshing Move Enchanted, last perk Blessed, or Savior. It kind of writes itself, which is nice. And it might actually give you like a damaged life staff to use or something. As for other things, you put a gem into it, 5% healing to targets below 50% health. You can have that if you're kind of like fighting. But if you notice like, oh yeah, I'm in the back, I'm staying at full health, I can also kind of heal myself if I need to and stay like topped off, then you want to put in a diamond, because diamond gives you outgoing healing efficiency while at full health. Your gear is just about staying safe. Try to get all the refreshing you can. You want Enchanted Ward, and then you want conditioning of whatever content you're going up against, maybe health, maybe harnessing of your alt weapon or something. I don't think it's worth the nature harnessing. And then you need to make sure your gear does have the other perks you're looking for. Purity of Light, if you can get it. Unfortunately, it's on intelligence. Sometimes just take what you get in this game. Fortifying Sacred Ground, Enchanted Ward. That's just great. You put on some kind of gem. That's just great too. Also, Runeglass trades some damage reduction. So if you're just trying to play like a back-in... Also, Runeglass trades some damage reductions. Let's say you are running Flail Life Staff because it's an incredible class that gives you a lot of utility and makes you very group friendly. for randoms or whatever group you're playing with, then yeah, you can have empowered, so that's going to give you arcane damage for your flail, and then you can still get the protection from the gem itself. But if you're not playing damage and you're playing like complete range, 100% support, then you actually just want the raw gem. It's good because it's cheaper, but it also gives you higher absorption stats, 2.5% compared to the 2% because you're trading some of that for the rune glass. Maybe some elemental aversion, maybe a bit more constitution so you don't immediately die. On your jewelry, you can get healthy toast, and that's going to give you health when you drink a mana potion, which can be really nice. Go back to full health. That's going to work into your diamond gem socket. And if you're having mana issues, then you might need like mana potion inside of your rotation or finding other ways of gaining mana. Regenerating, refreshing, that's nice. Maybe more constitution, so you have like some health survivability inside of it. Tons of focus means tons of healing. And then whatever, instead of Alchemist Reprieve here, you want divine health, but also a protection. So you can get like strike protection, slash protection, some kind of elemental protection inside of it. And then ring, blood drinker, so you can just never die on your primary weapon. This kind of is never a primary, unless you're like dedicated healer and you have a group of 4 like maxed out BIS people that you're supporting. But then we talked about on the ring, you want blessed purifying, but also healing breeze, not bad. Heal with ability, they get 14% weapon damage each second for 6 seconds, so like yeah, that's cool. Even with 10-second cooldown, you're able to still have good healing, and that works for like duo content if you got a friend and you're just healing them. So yeah, you can be a healer and it's not miserable, and some people just like being the healer. They like having the pressure taken off them for a nicer time and their own little bits of skill expression, which this allows. Like, this is the least skill expressive part, but then like I said, you can unlock some stuff with Divine Embrace and Splash of Light and playing around debuffs and other perks and stuff inside of this game. So if you really love that niche, then yeah, you can play Life Staff and you can just pick kind of not anything else. Like musket, bow, and rapier and kind of suck for just like solo content if you need to beat the story, beat the game yourself. But then you can just kind of go into anything else, change out your attributes as needed, and just kind of like put a little bit in the Life Staff, and it's good. And at some point you can go full Life Staff for the rest of the content, and some people just like that. Now, this is the part of the video where I usually give some kind of real world scenario of what you're trying to do with these weapons, but I'm not a healer. I'm not going to like try to get some expedition shenanigans going just to kind of show off the healing. But I can talk about what to do and how this works as a little bit of extra tips. So if you go into your options, there's actually specific options for healing stuff, if that's kind of what you're used to. Like, look at that. Life Staff combat. So you can have individual group member targeting keys, target self, ally lock, lock modifier, and then you can cycle targets inside of it. There's also a group mode, so make sure you just know those exist and you can do things about it. Also, little bits of tips. Like I said, you can set up the ground by casting it, and if there's no one to cast to, it's not going to snap. You can also do target self. So I press it, and then I press target self, and it's going to auto. Or you have the target self pressed, and then you can cast it on yourself. So we can also see that there's instacast on the beacon and the orb. You can just kind of cast them on your feet. Like, you can splash yourself with orb if you need the healing. They can also kind of stay inside of these other areas. So the solo play is also has like some tech inside of it. And then other things to talk about at the end, because the game is weird. There's a little bit of spaghetti and other interactions like don't make sense. Because if you have enchanted, are you going to be healing your ally more if you hit them with the auto attack and you have enchanted? No, that doesn't work. Also, blessed kind of reads weird. Outgoing healing efficiency, and then we can see there's divine, which is incoming healing. So incoming applies to lifesteal. Outgoing doesn't apply to yourself, except that's not correct. Outgoing does apply to yourself if you use it on yourself from an ability. So even though blessed sounds multiplayer, it actually has the ability to work single player if you're targeting yourself with outgoing healing. And then one thing I tried to do was get really cute, because with the fire staff, that's intelligence scaling. So let's say you put an amethyst onto your life staff, because that converts your life staff to intelligence. It means you're going to get scaling by going all into intelligence instead of focus. However, doesn't work on the life staff, because the life staff lies. It says you heal for weapon damage. That's not correct. And hopefully there's a patch in the future that fixes this, because I think it would be really cool and make the life staff a lot more fun and interesting if you could actually socket in a ruby or something that converts to intelligence. And it's like, oh, I go ruby on my life staff and I'm running fire staff and now I'm playing pyromancer healer. That's kind of really cool. And then I max out intelligence and I'm still healing with it. But no, even if you like put in the ruby and then you change your scaling, you max intelligence, does not change your base healing. So don't let the game lie to you, but then that kind of like bummed me out about life staff, because you can't do anything cute or interesting to mix it up. You just go life staff. But also healing is like one of the most powerful classes in any kind of game, and if you overtune it, then you just make all the content impossible to lose to, and then you make your entire team immortal, and then PvP is also super unfun. So it has its own weird balance, not really many trade-offs, and then you just use your experience to kind of know what feels good for your group and how you're playing the life staff, and then you spec into that. You build your life staff around it. Attributes are free because you need a focus, and then whatever else you're running, like whatever your second class is, you back up into that, and then you're kind of proficient and you make things work. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.